Good morning, everyone. This is Anne Marie. Today's Monday, December 17th. This is the outlook for the SPY. As many of you know who've been watching this, I've recently added the monthly VWAP here to give us an idea of the things that are going on. Now, this monthly VWAP, when we cross it, it's never something absolutely definitive in terms of changing direction. It always comes down to, hey, am I going to break resistance here? If I break above the VWAP, after being below it, is it the fact that I am beginning to change direction, or am I going to continue to get higher highs and higher lows from this perspective? As we could see, we got a lower high and then another lower high, and now after those two lower highs and the subsequent lower lows, we trended well below the VWAP on the month and now came up here. We had ourselves a pretty savage pop to the upside, and now we are flattening out, right? The rate of change between this move to this move is certainly not quite the move from here to here. It is dampening just a little bit. The question is, are we in a state where we look like this? So we have ourselves a pullback and then a great big bounce again. Or are we in a state like this that's going to give us another lower high and a lower low and have us reverse direction to the downside? Uncertainty right there. What we can see is there are a couple of things that we can look at from technical perspectives, and those of you who use an RSI or MACD or whatever it is, again, folks, becoming a master of 6 million technical indicators is not going to make you a masterful trader. Just telling you, the market always rewards the specialist, the person who can look at just a few things and make a decision. It is the ability to be decisive in a timely manner that makes for a good trader. It's the difference between the guy who can read a chart well and the guy who can trade a chart well. That's a fact. All right? So stomach that, couch it, socialize it, and then get on with it. If you're sitting in a space where you're like, why can't I see the results if I know what it is that I'm doing? It's because of the decisiveness event that's associated with trading, right? It is not a place to shuffle your feet. Okay, so that being said, what can we look at here? Well, if we look at this formation here, it doesn't really matter what these technical indicators are, but let's look at the comparative analysis. Here we have a positive reading right here and then a breakdown that moves in this direction. Well, if we're moving up and we have a breakdown in a positive region, we know it's usually going to come back into support. So here we have a breakdown. And this region at the breakdown, see this region at the breakdown here, pretty high level. This region at the breakdown here, not so high, as a matter of fact, pretty steep. So what we expect is perhaps a little bit of a drift to the south. Now, if we have a drift to the south, there's going to be some conflict there because the euro, which is showing a cup and handle, so is the FXE, showing cup and handle, showing breakout to the north, and the euro and the U.S. equity markets normally travel in the same direction. So that's going to cause a little bit of a disconnect. When we have those kinds of things not moving in flux, we end up having choppy, sideways, gappy, wicky action. And so that makes trading over the days a little bit indecisive. What that means for you and me as a trader is that we're going to look at things in smaller time frames and take those chunks off when we need to. Now, of course, what I do is geared to the very active trader. It's not to the investor, right? But it's really all the same. If you're sitting in a longer term perspective, you're just going to have to take your hands off of that mouse just a little bit and say, okay, let's just see what's going on here. Let this thing shake out. Do I need to put a vertical collar on my positions to keep them from, bleeding to death, or whatever it is that I need to do? Those sorts of things are very necessary in terms of the adaptive approach to keep yourself green. For those of us that are much more active, what we're going to be doing is looking at smaller time frames in tighter ranges to make our decisions. So, what's the trade today? That's the bottom line, right? That's what we want to know. The trade, in my mind, is really one that involves a much tighter view. And so let's go to a 30-minute chart. So here we have the breakdown, and we have all of this congestion. It's going to sit, maybe congestion's going to sit right about here. Okay, so if we have congestion sitting right about here, we really could trade up into it. We could trade around it. Ultimately, if we want to get a very good trade, we're going to have to be looking at, okay, if my top end is 142.78 here, assuming, and my baseline is where all this congestion is. Let's say it's somewhere around here. 141.65. We know that if I get to 141.65 and begin to pop a little bit, it may be worth the risk to take the long just into the next level of resistance. All right? Now, if you're only moving for 35.45 cents, you're going to have to be very wise about how you do that, right? Because that's essentially a scalping event. So, you know, you can't buy two options out of the money here and expect to get yourself some returns. All right? You just got to think about that very, very carefully. In my mind, we do have clear sideways congested action here. Well, hang on 2 secs. Paste. Okay, let's put that there just so we can see what we're talking about here. All right, so we have there on the bottom and this right here at the top where this double top action is, right? Essentially, we're still in an uptrending event. Still uptrending. And really, the only thing that's going to break that down is the break of this level, but you can stair-step your way through that, right? Right now, we're sitting right at the top of this relative congestion level event right here. That's going to make all the difference. You lose that space and you're going to see it drift down further to the south. All right? You know, these are times where you're best off studying formations and using your back testing and on-demand events and playback events in order to watch your trading systems develop rather than jumping in the fray and exposing yourself to a great deal of loss. All right? Take care and good luck.